The Bible. Is it hard to understand?
When it comes to reading the Bible, the first thing that comes to mind is the fact that this is the Word of God.
The seals have been broken, and the truth is here.
And when we go throughout the scriptures, when we go throughout extra-biblical records, we find that the language that God employed, that He used to create the heavens and the earth, was the Hebrew language.
Christ said, I came for the lost sheep of the house of Israel. The seals have been broken. No one, and the truth, no religious leader, no religious church out there anywhere can now identify the 12 tribes of Israel. Can we? God is quite simple, but it seems as if man makes understanding of the house hard.
What are those mysteries?
The truth of your book. And the truth will make you Hebrew and Bible Academy. You're invited.
What are those mysteries?
The truth of your book. And the truth will make you Hebrew and Bible Academy. You're invited.
I was lost, but now I'm found. I'm a child of Israel. I heard the sound. Please give me the strength to stand today. I was lost, with my eyes towards the east, show me the way. I opened up the book and see that the apple of your eye included me. And through the tribulation, I know I must stand for a new heaven, a new earth. Show me the way. I'm on my knees, laying my life on the line. I'm begging, please, please don't let me fall. Give me the strength.
All right, Shalom family. Before we do anything, let me first and foremost make sure the sound is good. Before I do anything, let me make sure everything is good with the sound. Before we get started, after that, we'll make a few announcements. And then we'll jump into what we'll be covering for this afternoon. Or rather, at this point, this evening. But before we do anything, let me first and foremost make sure everything is good as far as the sound. And with your confirmation, we will get started. All right, shalom to you all. Shalom wa barakathum, or shalom and blessings to you all. Shalom wa irab tawab, or shalom and good evening. Shalom to Elder Dale. The water for the confirmation. Everything is good. Okay, so let's jump right into it. First and foremost, I'm going to give all praise and honor to the Most High AHAYAH, Bahashem YASHAYA Warbawak, for allowing us to come before you with another Patreon Friday. Before I jump into it, let me just give a few shout outs. Let me see who we have with us this evening. Let's see who we have with us. Put your city or your state, where you're representing, where you're from, where you're at. Put it in the chat so I can give you a quick shout out. And then after that, we'll make a quick announcement concerning the Hebrew and Bible Academy. Then afterwards, again, we'll jump into a few things on this side, the YouTube side, before we go over to Patreon and answer some questions. As usual, I'd like to answer just a few questions on this side to kind of give you all just a little preview of how we deal or what we do on the other side on Patreon. But before we get into that, let me first and foremost get a few of you here. We got Richard Evans from the Houston body. Shalom to you and the family out there in Houston. All right, we got Nina Garza from Dallas, Texas. Shalom to you, Sister Nina, and your family out there in Dallas. All right. Apinawa Salakia, if I didn't pronounce that correctly. Someone says, how are you, Elder Lawyer? I am doing wonderful. I cannot complain. All praises be to the Most High. All right, we got Elizabeth Walters from Coolidge, Arizona. Shalom to you, Sister Elizabeth. We got Rodney World 123 from Greenville, North Carolina. Shalom to you, Brother Rodney, out there in Greenville. We got Dennis White out in New Orleans, Louisiana. Shout out to you, Denise, Sister Denise out there in New Orleans. We got Mainstream Dose from Boise, Idaho. Tina Salvatore from Oakland, California. Diego Miguel, who says beautiful Hebrews. Yeah, shalom to all the beautiful, lovely Hebrews who are with us, as well as those who will fall upon this in the future. We got S Lady 2 from Birmingham, Alabama. We got Jeremy from Kirkwood, or Jeremy Kirkwood from Moss Point, Mississippi. I'm assuming that's Mississippi. We got Carol Morach Reed from Columbus, Ohio. Shalom to Sister Carol. We got Sister Keisha Stewart representing, let's see here. The chat just jumped. Let me see here. All right, I lost you there. I'll get back to you, sister, if you can put your name back in the chat. All right, who else we have with us? All right, we got, let's see, the chat is jumping just a little bit, so excuse me if I miss you or if I call your name, but I can't get your city and state. Excuse me, things are jumping around just a little bit. But let's see, we got Yo Chris from Harrisburg, PA. Shalom to you out there in Harrisburg, PA. You are a neighbor out there in Harrisburg. We also got someone out there in Kutztown, PA. Yashra Workshop. Shalom to all the neighbors out there in the PA area. All right, who else we have here? We got Rose Melton from Omaha, Nebraska, the home of the great Malcolm X. Shalom to you, Sister Rose. All right, we got Laya Yasha'Allah, or Leah Yasha'Allah. You can let me know if the first or the latter is the proper pronunciation, but we got Sister, I want to say Leah Yasha'Allah from North Carolina. All right. Who else do we have with us? Let's give a few more before we jump in. All right, we got Brother Alan Barnes, the Cleveland sax player, in the house. All praises be to the Most High. Shalom to you, Brother Allen. All right, let's see who else we have here. We got Collinor B5 from Detroit, Michigan. We got the Morris from Bethlehem, PA. Again, shalom to all the neighbors out there in the PA area. All right, who else we got with us? Ahad from San Antonio, Texas, out there with the San Antonio, Texas body. Much love to you and the family out there in San Antonio. All right, and for the rest of the people, rest of the body, the rest of the loved ones who are in the chat, I want to say bless you all and shalom. Also got to give a shout out to Hamayan 7, YASHAYA from GOCC, New Jersey. You are also a close neighbor to the family out there in PA. Obviously, we're neighboring states, so all praises be to the Most High. Shalom and much love to you. And again, much love to all of you who are with us this evening, as well as those who will happen upon this in the very near future. All right, so before we do anything, again, being that it's a Q&A segment, I want to make sure I answer a few questions on this side. But before we get into the Q&A, let me first and foremost just make a quick announcement about the Hebrew and Bible Academy. All right. Let's see here. Why are we not getting any picture here? 1 second. All right, we should get picture. All right, something is wrong there. All right, I wanted to give you all the share screen of the Academy page, but for some reason we're having an issue there. But nonetheless, yes, we are officially in week number 4 of the Hebrew and Bible Academy. Yes, we are still accepting enrollments. We're only 4 weeks in. We still got 8 weeks to go. We're still within the first month, or we're coming to the last lesson of the first month of the Academy. If you are interested, please go to historytimes.org, and there you'll find all the information you need to enroll in the Hebrew and Bible Academy. The lesson for this week, week number 4, will be, who is Edom? We're going to track his history from his birth all the way to latter-day prophecy. And we're going to end it off with the judgment of Edom. Not just the Edomites who will be doomed based upon their participation in Satan's kingdom and allowing themselves to be used as a tool, as an instrument of the devil to commit wickedness and atrocities throughout the four corners of the earth, but also those who have chosen Christ. What will befall the Edomites who actually put away the wickedness of their forefathers, have admitted that their fathers have inherited lies, and have decided to embrace the faith of Christ? What will befall those Edomites? Well, all of that and more will be discussed in our lesson, week number 4, who is Edom? All right. So, jumping in very quickly, as always, I like to give a quick 1 or 2 questions, some time on this side before we jump over to Patreon. All right, we're going to be dealing just with random general questions. So if you have any questions at this time, again, on this side, I'll answer about 1 or 2 questions before we transition over to Patreon. All right. Also, Elder Dale, if you can put the Patreon link in the chat so that if anyone is interested who is not yet enrolled or have subscribed to the Patreon, they can have that information as well. All right, someone asked, Erasmus Eakin says, why do you guys never talk about the places God to Enoch? That prophet was beloved in conversations with God. None had, not even the archangel Michael. He saw God's face. I don't know what that question means. You have to rephrase your question. All right. And I'm not sure if you speak another language, but I want to say this, brothers and sisters, when you put your questions in the chat, please actually give time to think through your questions so that you can actually put clear questions in the chat, right? Legible and understandable, comprehensible, if that's a word. I don't know if it's comprehensible questions in the chat, okay? All right. Can you break down Ezekiel 1, 5 through 10? Trying to get an understanding. Is this how the angel looked like? All right, let's go to the book of Ezekiel, chapter 1, verse number 5. All right, Ezekiel 1 and 5. All right, let me pull it up so you can see it. And let's go there very quickly. We're not going to spend too much time on it, but just to give an overview of what we're seeing here. It says here, now it came to pass in the 30th year, in the 4th month, in the 5th day of the month, as I was among the captives by the river Chebar, that the heavens were open. Now, this is in Babylon, okay? When the scriptures speak about by the rivers of Babylon, right? One of those rivers was the river Chebar, okay? All right, can look that up very quickly. Okay. Kabar in the Hebrew. Babylonian Naru Kabaru, which means great canal. Leaving the Euphrates near Babylon and rejoining it near Warka. Okay, so that's the river Kabar, which again was a river in Babylon. Right? So Ezekiel was by this river. And it says that while he was by this river, that the heavens were opened and he saw visions of God. In the 5th day of the month, which was the 5th year of King Jehoiachin's captivity, the word of the Lord came expressly unto Ezekiel the priest, the son of Buzi, in the land of the Chaldeans, by the river Chebar. And the hand of the Lord was there upon him. Verse 4 says, and I looked, and behold, a whirlwind came out of the north, a great cloud, and a fire enfolding itself. And a brightness was about it, and out of the midst thereof as the color of amber, and out of the midst of the fire. Also out of the midst thereof came the likeness of 4 living creatures. And this was their appearance. They had the likeness of a man, and everyone had 4 faces, and everyone had 4 wings. And their feet were straight feet, and the sole of their feet was like the sole of a calf's foot, and they sparkled like the color of burnished brass. Okay? So yes, this is giving a description of the angels. Okay, not only the angels, also the chariots. Okay, all right. And this whole description we're seeing here is an imagery of the Most High's throne, the angels that are round about the throne, and the chariots, okay, which are also round about the throne. Okay, so again, verse 4 says, and I looked, and I saw a whirlwind came out of the north, a great cloud, and a fire enfolding itself. And a brightness was about it, and out of the midst thereof, as the color of amber, out of the midst of the fire. Also out of the midst thereof came the likeness of 4 living creatures. And this is very similar to what we see in the book of Revelations with the 4 living creatures that surround the throne of God. If we go to the book of Revelations chapter 4, It says here, Revelations 4, and let's see. Revelations 4 and let's start at verse number 5. And out of the throne, in fact, I'll start at verse 1, because what you're going to read here is very similar to what Ezekiel saw in chapter 1 of the book of Ezekiel. After this I looked, and behold, a door was opened, and the first verse which I heard was as if it were, or as it were, of a trumpet with me, which said, Come up hither, and I will show thee the things which must be hereafter. And immediately I was in the Spirit, and behold, a throne was set in heaven, and one sat on the throne. And he that sat was to look upon like jasper and a sardine stone, and there was a rainbow round about the throne, in sight like unto an emerald. And round about the throne were 24 seats, and upon the seats I saw 24 elders sitting, clothed in white raiment, and they had on their heads crowns of gold. And out of the throne proceeded lightnings and thunderings and voices, and there were 7 lamps of fire burning before the throne, which are the 7 spirits of God. So to get the breakdown of who these 7 spirits are, you go to the book of Revelations, the 1st chapter. I believe the 17th verse reveals exactly who these 7 spirits are. Verse number 6 says, And before the throne there was a sea of glass like unto crystal, and in the midst of the throne and round about the throne were 4 beasts full of eyes before and behind. And the first beast was like a lion, and the second beast like a calf, and the third beast had a face as a man, and the fourth beast like a flying eagle. And the 4 beasts had each of them 6 wings about him, and they were full of eyes within, and they rest not day and night, saying, Holy, 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 Lord God Almighty, which was and is to come. All right? So this is very similar to what we read in the book of Ezekiel pertaining to those angels, those 4 angels. All right? There's a slight difference. In Ezekiel, it makes mention of the angels having 4 wings. Revelations make mention of these angels having 6 wings. Nonetheless, we go there just to show the similarities of what's being explained. Okay? So going back, it says, Ezekiel 1 and picking up in verse number 8, and they had the hands of a man under their wings on their 4 sides, and they had 4 faces and their wings. Their wings were joined one to another. They turned not when they went. They went every one straight forward. As for the likeness of their faces, they 4 had the face of a man, the face of a lion on the right side, and they 4 had the face of an ox on the left side, and they 4 had the face of an eagle. Thus were their faces and their wings stretched upward. 2 wings of every one were joined one to another, and 2 covered their bodies. And they went every one straight forward. Whither the Spirit was to go, they went, and they turned not where they went. So it goes on and on with the explanation of these angels, the chariots of these angels, and the throne of God. Okay, so that's what Ezekiel 1 is explaining. Okay.
The Bible.
Salakia.
Is it hard to understand?
1 moment. When it comes to reading the Bible, the first thing that comes to mind is the fact. All right, there we go. All right, let me make sure that's squared away. Okay, so that should be good. All right, so hopefully that answers your question for the brother who asked the question. All right, let's see what else we have here. It's okay, Erasmus. It's no problem at all. Just make sure when you type out your question, make sure that you give time to actually thoroughly um, put the question in such a way that it is clear and understandable. Okay. Now, if you're asking if we go into the book of Enoch, if we teach on Enoch, yes, the answer is yes. We absolutely teach on Enoch. We use the book of Enoch. We touched on that actually last or 2 weeks ago in the academy when we touched on tracing the serpent seed. We went extensively in the book of Enoch, and we have other lessons on YouTube that you can find in which we go into the book of Enoch to teach certain breakdowns, certain understandings. So yes, we are familiar with Enoch and we teach from that record. But as far as your question, um, you have to clarify just a little bit. Okay. Someone says, did you guys, Erasmus says, did you guys hear about how they found Gilgamesh, aka Nimrod? He was wearing a weird watch, looked like a Movado. They said it was a compass made of tumuli stone. Yes, I have seen those images. Okay. Whether it's actually a watch or not, that's questionable. But I have seen those images. Okay. I have seen those images. In fact, let me see here. Let me look it up. Let me try Babylonian Tree of Life. All right. Here's an example of one of those images that Brother Erasmus is referring to. All right. Here's an example of it. Let me pull it up so you can see it. All right. All right, so here's an example of an image. It's called the Babylonian Tree of Life. And here, all right, let me pull it over so I can actually read what we have here. All right, it says protective spirit and the tree of life. Wall relief from Babylon, century 7th BC. All right, decline all. All right. So you look at the wrist and you see what some have called a wristwatch. Right? Now, whether it is a wristwatch, it is questionable. Okay, but some have come to that conclusion just by looking at the image. Okay. Personally, I would want to actually go into the records, the Babylonian records, and see what they actually say that is. When I say the Babylonian records, just like the Israelites had records which describe various things within their culture, various things within everyday life, the Babylonians had the same thing. Okay, the Babylonians had records concerning their culture, concerning their worships, their religion, so on and so forth. So I would rather look at what they have to say concerning what this is. But again, some have concluded just by looking at it that this is a wristwatch, and obviously I can see how people come to that conclusion. But again, sometimes you want to go into their records and see, okay, what did they say concerning this? Do they make mention of this, what they call a protective spirit, or what some may call a demon? Okay. Do they mention anything about this artifact or this piece of jewelry that's on his wrist? Okay. But that is a theory that's out there concerning that. Okay. Someone says, why did they have a tree of life? What tends to happen a lot of times is that when Esau makes discoveries, and again, I'm not sure if that terminology is actually used. If you were to go into Babylonian records pertaining to that tree, do they actually refer to that or call it the tree of life? Or is that something that Esau, a label that he put on it, trying to make or draw a conclusion between that imagery and the biblical tree of life? And Esau is very good at that, trying to draw connections between things in other cultures, especially cultures of what they call the ancient Near East, what we call today the Middle East, ancient Babylon, ancient Sumeria, ancient Mesopotamia, even Egypt, okay, Egypt and Africa. What they'll do is they'll find things within those particular cultures, certain artifacts, certain wall reliefs, and what they'll do is they'll try to draw some conclusion between that and the Bible as a way to say that, look, what the Bible is saying is not original because in this culture, they have this thing called the tree of life, or they have this thing that we have called the Babylonian tree of life, which is probably where Moses got it from or where the biblical authors got it from. You know, they usually do that to try to prove or show that the Bible copycatted someone else's culture, okay, or plagiarized someone else's culture, okay. In some cases, you are going to have similarities, okay, in regards to certain stories. You're going to have similarities when it comes to certain things you're going to find on artifacts, and here's why, okay. Here's why. Let's quickly go to the Bible. Let's quickly go to the Bible. And let's see why you're going to find similarities. Let's say hypothetically within Babylonian records, the Babylonians actually refer to this as the tree of life. Just off the site, I have to do more research as to how it achieved that name. In fact, let me just try to pull something up very quickly and see if they explain how it got its name. Again, off the top, I believe it's something that Esau, a label that he gave it as a way to try to say that the Bible plagiarized this. But maybe in Babylonian records, they actually call it the tree of life. Okay. All right, I'm in Wikipedia. It says the tree of life is a fundamental archetype in many of the world's mythical, religious, and philosophical traditions. It is closely related to the concept of the sacred tree, the tree of knowledge connecting heaven and the underworld, such as Yggdrasil, and the tree of the good, the knowledge of good and evil in Genesis, and the tree of life, connecting all forms of creation, are forms of the world tree or cosmic tree. So they're going into different cultures who have, you know, these similar concepts about a sacred tree or what have you. Okay. So why would there be similarities between these cultures and some of these stories, similar ideologies? I'm going to show you very quickly out of the Bible. Okay. I'm going to show you in a moment. All right, let's go to the book. Let's go to the book of Genesis. In fact, before we go to the book of Genesis, let's go to the book of Peter's. I want to say 2 Peter, the second chapter. 2 Peter, the second chapter. Maybe 2 Peter, the first chapter. In fact, yes, 2 Peter, the second chapter. Let me make sure you all are still with me. Someone said they would steal the Israelites' traditions through captivity. In some cases, yes, there are cases where some of these concepts, before they came in contact with the Israelites, or in some cases before they came into the contact with the Israelite records, such as the Gospels or whatever the case may be, some of these concepts didn't exist in some of these foreign cultures. They picked it up after. They picked up some of the stories and some of the ideologies and some of the themes after they came in contact with the Israelites, whether in the Old Testament or even in the New Testament. When you hear people say that, when you hear people make certain claims about the correlation between Christ and some of these pagan deities, a lot of times when you do the back work, you find out that these pagan deities, like these attributes that sound similar to Christ, were not added to their story until after Christ and until after the apostles began to spread the gospel throughout the known world at that time. It's only after that time that you start to see the other nations adding certain concepts from the gospels and certain attributes of Christ, right, into the stories of their gods. Okay, you'll see that, for example, with Mithra, where they'll say that Mithra had 12 disciples. Well, where is that in the ancient records of Mithra, the original records of Mithra? It's nowhere to be found. It's not only until after Christ came on the scene, it's not until after the apostles are spreading the gospel throughout the known world that now some of those concepts are now being added into the story of Mithra. Okay? So that's just one example. And you'll see that in other cases as well, right? So that is true. In some cases, they come in contact with us and they'll start to add elements of our records, our history, our story into their records. So that is true. But also, here's another aspect. Okay? Here's another aspect. We're starting in the book of 2 Peter, chapter 2, verse number 5. It says, "And spirit not the old world, but save Noah, the 8th person." Meaning he was the 8th person from Adam. Okay, the 8th person from Adam. Which means, most likely, Noah had concourse with Adam, was taught certain information, if not directly from Adam himself, by those who were direct descendants of Adam. Okay, remember, men lived hundreds of years before the flood. Okay, so they were receiving direct knowledge and insight of the generations that preceded them, going all the way back to Adam. Right? So it says, "In spirit not the old world, but saved Noah, the 8th person," meaning he was the 8th from Adam. So he was getting that direct knowledge and understanding from Adam and his descendants. Right? A preacher of righteousness. So not only was Noah receiving knowledge, because he was a preacher, he was also teaching that knowledge. Right? The question is, who was he teaching this knowledge to? We know that he was preaching to those of the antediluvian world, or the pre-deluge world, or the pre-flood world. We know that he taught them, but he also taught others. I'm going to touch on that in a moment. It says, "But save Noah, a preacher of righteousness, bringing in the flood upon the world of the ungodly." Right? But we know that out of that antediluvian world, out of that pre-flood world, we know that 8 were saved. Let's get that very quickly. Let's get the 8 souls that were saved. I believe, what's that? The book of Jude. Let's check that out. See if that's it. If not, I'll jump around. Okay. Let's go to, let's see, 8 persons. Let's get that very quickly. 8 persons. All right, maybe 8 souls. Let's try 8 souls. All right, 1 Peter 3 and, starting at verse number 18. For Christ also once suffered for sins, the just for the unjust, that he might bring us to God, being put to death in the flesh, but quickened by the Spirit, by which also he went and preached unto the spirits in prison. Let's jump down to the key point. Which sometime were disobedient, when once the long suffering of God waited in the days of Noah, while the ark was a preparing, wherein few, that is 8 souls, were saved by water. So who were these 8 souls? Who were these 8 souls? Here we're talking about the family of Noah, his direct family, his wife, his 3 sons, and their wives. Okay? So when it says that he was a preacher of righteousness, Noah, again, not only did he teach the general population, he also taught his family. He also taught his sons. So not only did Noah receive, or not only was Noah being the 8th person from Adam, not only was he receiving knowledge directly from the beginning, right? Directly from the first man on earth, he was now taking that same knowledge and passing it down to his children. So now let's go here. Let's go to the book of Genesis. Genesis 10. Right? In fact, let's start in Genesis 9. Genesis 9 and 1 says, and God blessed Noah and his sons and said unto them, be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth. So we know that the population of the earth after the flood, post-flood, post-deluge, consisted of Noah's sons, right? It would be through Noah's sons that the earth would be repopulated. And those sons would repopulate the earth with that same knowledge that they received and that their father received pre-flood. Knowledge going back to the beginning. Knowledge about the tree of good and evil, which was used by the devil to deceive both Adam and Eve. Knowledge about that tree of life, right? Knowledge of how the world was before sin entered into the earth. They were receiving that knowledge going all the way back to Adam. So as they went out into the earth and overspread the earth, as it tells us in verse number 18, and the sons of Noah that went forth of the ark were Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and Ham is the father of Canaan. These are the sons of Noah, and of them was the whole earth overspread, meaning by the sons of Noah was the whole earth repopulated. So what were they doing? They were now taking that same knowledge going back to the beginning, including the knowledge about the tree of life, and now they were taking it into the lands or in the places that were separated for their inheritance, okay, or that were portioned out for their inheritance, right? When we go to the book of Deuteronomy 32, all right, and I'll take one more question after this before we transition. All right, Deuteronomy 32. We'll start at verse 8 when it says, when the Most High divided to the nations their inheritance, when he separated the sons of Adam. When did this separation take place? At the Tower of Babel. What happened after these nations began to separate and go into the lands of their inheritance? Well, they took that same knowledge that they received from Noah, that Noah received going all the way back to Adam, including that knowledge about the tree of good and evil, as well as the tree of life. And they were taking that information into their, their respective places. Okay? So based upon that, you're now going to see similarities between these cultures. Okay? You're going to see similarities between these cultures. Okay? Not that the Bible stole from these cultures, or that the Hebrews stole from these cultures, but they all have a common origin. They all come from a common place. Okay? Now, GD and Capone, does that answer your question? GD Capone, does that answer your question? I'm waiting for G&D Capone's response. All right. The tree of life in Revelation, the leaf represents the 12 tribes. Not necessarily. We see, all right, we see similarities, or we see that number 12 being used over and over. Okay, 12 months in the year, 12 tribes of Israel, 12 disciples, right? 12 manner of fruit. The 12 manner of fruit, in fact, let's go there very quickly, is more so in reference to, let's see. Let's go to Revelation 22 and read it. Revelation 22. And he showed me a pure river of water of life, clear as crystal, proceeding out of the throne of God and of the Lamb. In the midst of the street of it, and on either side of it, was there the tree of life, which bare 12 manner of fruits, and yielded her fruit every month. Okay, so the 12 manner of fruits, I wouldn't be surprised if there is a correlation with the 12 tribes, but more so is stating that this tree yielded a different fruit each month. And we know that there's 12 months in a year. So that's where the 12 comes in when we're talking about the tree of life. Last question, Elder, is the great falling away connected to Revelation 18, where the Most High is calling his people to come out of her? Not necessarily, okay? What we've been taught is the great falling away in modern Christianity is not the great falling away that the Bible is talking about. Let's go here very quickly to the book of 2 Thessalonians 2, where it says, starting in verse 1, now we beseech you, brethren, that by the coming of our Lord YASHAYA Mashiach, or Jesus Christ, and by our gathering together unto him, that ye not be soon shaken in mind or troubled, neither by spirit, nor by word, nor by letter as from us, as the day of Christ is at hand. Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come except there come a falling away first, and that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition, who opposeth. In fact, we're going to stop here where it says, except there come a falling away first. We're going to stop there. So it says, let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come, meaning the day of Christ's return, except there come a falling away first. So the question is, what is this falling away referring to? Well, let's go back to Christ. Since Christ, the day of Christ, is the topic at hand. We're talking about the day of Christ. So let's go to Christ to see what he says about this great falling away. St. Luke 21:20, and when you shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is nigh. Then let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains, and let them which are in the midst of it depart out, and let not them that are in the countries enter thereinto. For these be the days of vengeance, that all things which are written may be fulfilled. Now jumping down, it says here, verse number 24. And they, meaning the Israelites, and they shall fall by the edge of the sword. And they, the Israelites, shall fall. Okay, this is the falling away. All right, this is when Jerusalem fell. All right, that's what 2 Thessalonians of what they would say great apostasy, when everyone will begin to turn their back on Christianity. No, falling away happened when the Israelites fell in 78 AD. So it says they shall fall by the edge of the sword and be led away captive into all nations, and Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles until the time of the Gentiles be fulfilled. So this is the falling away. Okay? Now, will there be a time in the earth where, and we're seeing it now, where people are becoming more, or what the Bible says, waxing worse and worse? Absolutely. Okay? It tells us in the book of Timothy's, right, about the perilous times to come, right? But that's not what that falling away is referring to in 2 Thessalonians, and no, it's not necessarily connected with Revelations 18. Okay? All right. So with that, I want to say thank you all for tuning in with the Friday Patreon, the Friday evening Patreon. At this time, we're going to transition to the other side, which is the Patreon side. So if you have any more questions, we'll jump over there for about another hour, and we'll answer some more questions. And then after that, we'll call it an evening. All right. With that, I want to say bless you all and shalom. And again, if you're interested in the Hebrew and Bible Academy, please go to historytimes.org, where you'll get all the information you need in order to enroll. Okay? With that, I want to say bless you all and shalom.
The Bible. Is it hard to understand?
When it comes to reading the Bible, the first thing that comes to mind is the fact that this is the Word of God.
The seals have been broken, and the truth is here.
And when we go throughout the scriptures, when we go throughout extra biblical records, we find that the language that God employed, that he used to create the heavens and the earth, was the Hebrew language.
Christ said, I came for the lost sheep of the house of Israel. But yet no one, no religious leader, no religious church out there anywhere can we? God is quite simple, but it seems as if man makes understanding him hard.
What are those mysteries?
The truth of your book. the truth will make you free. The Hebrew and Bible Academy, you're invited.